This podcast is rated R for restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. Mission 250.
Welcome to the Mission 250 Filmcast, where we watch the best movies ever made, most of the time. Actually, not most of the time anymore, sometimes. And nowadays, we're just watching a bunch of Oscar stuff because it's Oscar season. And this week, we're watching a movie called The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which is the German movie that was submitted and accepted as one of the best international films of the year in the Academy Awards. It's filmed in Iran. And where we watched it this week, and we're going to hop into a spoiler-free 20-second impressions review, starting with somebody else but me, because I think I steamrolled the last 2 weeks. Who wants to go first?
John, why don't you go first?
There you go.
20 seconds. I don't even have my timer. I'm so unprepared.
This is part of your time, John. Clock is ticking.
Yeah, no. Well, then I'm done. That makes it easy. All right, TC, what do you think?
Somebody else go first. Fuck.
This movie was really disturbing. It's just seemed to be a very sort of real life kind of movie. It had kind of two parts. One, it turned into an unexpected direction. But man, I was really terrified by this film. I did not enjoy it, though I appreciated it and think it's timely to watch.
Nice. TC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about these topics, and, it was a tough watch and so long. I don't know why it had to be so long, but it was so long. And it was all in a different language, which required reading the entire 3 hours.
That's so much of me.
That was just a lot of work, and that's all I got.
What more do you want from me, Mopi? I give and give.
This movie was really long. It was a little upsetting. Actually, I mean, the movie felt like a metaphor for a lot of other stuff, and I think it worked a lot better after watching the movie for the metaphor portions of it, and the actual what was going on in the movie, the plot and all that stuff didn't really work as well for me. It was just really long. I don't know.
Jesus.
That's
and
20
just
seconds.
it's hard watching a family deteriorate like that. You know,
There's so many parts that I didn't buy in the story part, but I kind of like the entire thing. I'm like, oh, it's the dad represents the country.
Well, but there's
just whenever I thought that I was like, it works that way, but then
there are segments that are really terrifying, and there's imagery that's. I mean, you've got the film is cut through with the actual footage, I assume, of these riots and stuff. So that adds a sense of realism to it. The pacing has a feeling of realism to it because it does move really slow. Sometimes it felt like these were vignettes almost, because it seemed like then the next thing that happened didn't really feel like it was attached to the thing that happened before, in the sense of you'd think their reactions might be different. But still, some of the imagery and the acting I thought was really good. And so in the moment, like each of these moments, I thought it was pretty affecting. But then there's a lot of slow stuff too, kind of in between. But some of it's really good, even in its slowness, like towards the end when it gets all kind of like it's more of a horror stalker thing. But again, Denny's biting his lip, so I think I'm getting a distop from Denny there. With
I'll let you talk, John. I'm doing a good job over
got the
here.
little lip bite there that you can't hide.
Stop staring at my lip, John.
I don't know, John.
Stop staring at my lip. Aren't you proud of letting you go, John? I'm not jumping on
we
it.
haven't interrupted you yet, John.
No, I know, but
You're interrupting yourself. It's fucking.
I am. That's right.
You're
Just be quiet,
talented.
and I'll cut myself up. But man, I just miss. We've seen a couple of films like
A Separation was one of them.
A Separation, yeah, and I don't know. I was just kind of it's really topical. It's really amazing to think about it. To think about the kind of, like you said, TC, watching that there's this idea of a deterioration of the family, a sense of it not being what it was, a sense of these women in this place where they have no power, and how they're struggling with that. So, I mean, there's some pretty fantastic, awful imagery. Like when, like initially, even that first scene is really well done. Like the bullets hitting the table is a great first scene. with the sound, the way they're just like it's very loud and stark. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I think it was worth a watch. I know that there's probably a lot of criticism that could be levied at it too, but I think it's kind of the story behind it is amazing.
I don't know if there's too much
know?
criticism you can have. It's just a tough watch.
I think it's hard to criticize it.
Yeah, it's something we don't fully understand and
no, that's true.
Ever live, and I think that alone is a reason enough to maybe watch some of it.
Yeah, we see,
but not 2 hours and 45 minutes of it.
I know. But even the
and
hints
just to
of it,
summarize, just because I don't think we're being very vague.
Really run through
This
it.
movie is about the riots that happened in 2022 in Iran about wearing hijabs, and was it just in Tehran? I don't even know. I
think it
saw
was everywhere. It was all over the
everywhere
country.
in Iran. Yeah, everywhere in the country. There was suppression by the government to stop people from protesting, and it got violent, and people were killed, and the protests grew. And that's what this is kind of about. But it's about a family that's kind of the parents are on the government side of things that are okay with the hijab. So it's just like, and the kids are not. So their 2 girls are not.
Not just okay, but this is what God wants you to do. It's
but there's also that that sense of we don't have a choice. We work for the government. The government is saying we're doing this, and that's the hard place that the father's in the whole time is sort of dealing with that.
Yeah, it's fair, TC, and I think it's done well, that nuance of what are we supposed to do here? What are we going to go get ourselves killed?
They're fucking wiretapping the boss. Come on.
Yeah.
They're fucked, right? Like, there's nothing they can do. And the kids don't understand that fully either, I thought. But, there's no real good way to explain that to them either, And the whole thing with the gun was stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought that was the only thing they could think of. Like, that okay, so the gun's gone. Well, who gives a shit? I guess that's a big deal because it's the government's gun, but I was having trouble with that storyline.
I had trouble with the father, even before then, being so okay with signing all these execution things just because he was being told to. Like, he was instantly a fucking idiot, and like I hated him from the get-go, and yet he was so soft-spoken in the first 2/3 of the movie, and I was like, I don't understand his character at all. And then it got even more confusing in the last third, where he becomes like a monster, like running around trying to kill his family. He has like a fucking house in the middle of nowhere with jail cells in the back. Like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, and like they didn't do a very good job of showing us that turn. Like it was just kind of like progressing along, and he didn't really act differently. And then all of a sudden they're chasing each other around, and so the yelling that he had wasn't seemingly more aggressive than it was previously in the beginning. And so I don't know. It didn't seem like they set up his character.
I think that's why it worked better for the metaphor, because like if he's the government, they're calm as long as you like don't push back, sort of thing. But then as soon as you push back, then like they become these violent oppressors out of nowhere. But like that doesn't really work outside of the
reality,
metaphor, right? As like a person doesn't necessarily do that. And it would have worked better if we saw even just like one small hint of his character having that rage in him before he got all mad for the end. But he didn't. Like, I thought he was like a total pushover kind of guy, because like he got
just
pushed
a
over
yes
when
man.
they told.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the way he sort of presented it, is just kind of weak, just kind of having something of a conscience about it, but also clearly not wanting to jeopardize his career either. Well, he was, he did showed some.
If
stress,
his career involves executing innocent people, fuck your career, man.
I know.
Obviously,
but again, we don't know anything about this because it's Iran,
right?
They live in a different world than we do.
I just couldn't connect. Like, they were trying to make you sympathize with the parents. Like, this movie, I think, would have been a lot more interesting if it made you sympathize with the parents a little bit more. But like, the parents were old school, super religious. They watch the Fox News, and they just like use the same tactics that people say, like, "Oh, the other side's trying to brainwash you too.
Right.
Why wouldn't you trust the television?" Sort of thing. And just all of that just was super distancing. And that, I don't know. It seemed, it would have been more interesting if it was two-sided, maybe. But maybe it's not two-sided. I don't know.
I mean, right. But these are not the things you should be questioning once you
while I watch it. But I have so much time to think about it, TC. So much time.
And they did not need that time.
No,
they
it was
really
70% of these people in their apartment
Just
watching their iPhones,
with no
watching each other
sound.
watch their iPhones, right? Like it was a lot of them just being in the apartment.
Finally, when there was people in the background screaming and yelling, it felt a little bit more tense. But in that beginning, when they weren't in their neighborhood yet, there was just people in their house. And that's what we saw. So there was like the most menial tasks on screen of them passing time, but not really because of anything. We're just seeing them do these things, and it's really sort of like dragged on.
And I thought,
every scene for some reason,
And I thought it was going to be kind of like, once they started being able to hear people, I thought it was going to be like, oh, here comes the crowds to destroy them. Like they're going to get closer and closer, and this is where this movie's going. But it doesn't go there. Like they stop. They stop. Like the noise outside kind of dies down a little bit, which may be more realistic. But like,
and then it's his paranoia that we're watching, and it's like I mean, it's.
And you don't really know how bad of a guy the dad is. And the scene where they chased down the car and tied the people up in the desert, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like this doesn't even make any sense. So what, they're filming you? Who cares? Like I don't get it. I still don't get it. I finished the movie and I don't get why he did that.
Right.
Because he's this terrible guy, I guess, that we see at the end. But like, I don't know. Story-wise, this movie just like had me scratching my head. And
I get it.
Not enjoying the watch.
No,
but the thing is, I'm not to talk too negatively on it. I'm really appreciative that a movie is like bringing this out and showing like the real footage was obviously very shocking. That was by far the most engaging. Like I don't know, is engaging the right word?
Well, it certainly made an impression. It was impactful.
Impactful,
right?
yeah.
And I think hearing the story about this film that, he made this film, they were like smuggling it out. He was like, this guy, the director's been put in prison several times and ended up having to flee the country on foot. Yeah. I mean,
that's a better story than the movie. Seriously.
I know, right? But the context of it just makes it kind of compelling too. I kind of like your idea of the metaphor as well. I just like how I agree. I don't know if I think too carefully about the plot or whatever. It just feels a little, especially where it was going in the first half, then just sort of it spirals out of control, sort of. And that's I understand.
And then it's a Scooby-Doo cartoon at the end where they're just like running around a castle in corridors, being like, "Oh, I see you," and then running around some more for like 10 minutes.
I know. That's fair.
Well, they know the Americans like a chase.
I still was on board. I don't know why. Well, I do know why.
People were calling that like it ends on a Western. I'm like, that was a Western?
Nah.
I don't know about that.
I kind of, it's an open space, I guess, where people are chasing each other through some ruins, a Westernish sort of
And there's
thing.
a gun. I guess there's guns.
Definitely a gun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't in Arabic. And
I don't think that's an issue. I don't have any.
I was having so much trouble trying to because I would get this, be like, oh my God, this is dragging on. And then like look away and then be like, oh shit.
TC, it wasn't
what did they say?
I just want to
no idea.
Correct me. I'm going to correct you and correct me if I'm wrong. But we watch a lot of foreign movies and you never bring up like, oh, it's foreign. It's a different language. I'm annoyed by this.
No, it is. It's only when it's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
This movie was long. That was the problem.
That was the problem. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was long in every scene. So
and it wasn't.
It's hard to pay attention.
We're talking about it being long, but Naomi couldn't even watch it because there was so much dialogue in this movie, especially towards the beginning, and she's dyslexic. So,
right.
If there's ever a foreign movie, if it's going fast,
it would have been nice to have a dump.
Movie.
That's all I know.
Even that first poem that they read, I was like, what now? Because they read the whole Sacred Fig thing. Poem was like plum 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 plum. I missed it. I just was like, oh damn it!
I don't know.
I'm so confused now. There's 3 hours to go.
That's right.
No, I knew I was in for a tough one in the first scene. Just the way that they edited the the opening.
They didn't edit. They didn't move the camera.
Christ.
They didn't edit. They didn't do any lighting. It was just a camera in a room, static for 2 minutes at a time.
That's true.
For 3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. But also, like, I kind of a lot of movies, I kind of like that simple. I liked it how they decided to do that. You know what I mean? Like stepping back from it and being like, they want to make this about the story of what's going on, and they chose to do that by not focusing on anything else.
To something, but they're not necessarily making a movie that has a great story and that I want to watch in one sitting without getting distracted.
Yep, that's fair.
Not something I would recommend.
I still found it
just because it's a tough sell.
I don't know. Yeah,
Like,
I got you. I'm glad. I mean, being on this side sucks because I've been on where you're at, John, a couple of times recently. It's nice to be where John is.
It is. That's great. I mean, again, I just feel like I even felt that the parents were presented in some sympathetic light at first. I was feeling that they were stuck where they were, and they didn't have options in the sense of that they sort of have to toe these lines.
They don't have, and then Jenny's so right, though. They didn't have options unless they decided to be a stand-up person and say, fuck this.
And lose
I'm not
everything.
doing that.
Lose everything. I mean,
but again, you're killing people.
I know,
you're killing people.
But
yes, that's a pretty hard line for a lot of people.
It's a hard line, but you're not necessarily doing it yourself. You're just signing off and somebody else is doing the killing. But that happens a lot. Like,
I mean,
I know.
Wasn't him, it would be someone else.
The movie tries to make you sympathize with him, but he's an unsympathetic character.
I know.
People like that ruin the world, you know?
I know.
So, like, he's a very
also
hateable person.
replaceable.
I don't know if they're trying to make you sympathize him, but they're also just trying to make him seem pretty damn ordinary.
I think that why if they're not trying to make you sympathize with him, then why focus so much on him? Like, there's no main character in this movie. It's all four members of this family, right? Like, they spend almost the same amount of screen time, even more in the parents, I would say, than the kids, because the kids,
the parents,
they just kind of
really the mom.
I
I think the mom is the main character.
Yeah, the mom. It's like the first quarter is the dad mostly, and then the second or so is the mom, and then we go on our family.
And then the kids start watching their phones.
Locked in rooms and what the fuck.
By the time someone stole the gun, like I felt like I didn't even. This movie is so long. You should be able to know the characters. I didn't know either of the two girls enough to be like, would they have stolen it? I was surprised when the young one did.
After thinking back on it later, is that the girl Sana that stole it did not seem like she was acting weird.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was, nervous or like they didn't have her character actually trying to hide something. So it didn't really land as far as like, oh, she stole the gun. It just seemed like, oh, they forgot about that part, and then all of a sudden they needed something. She stole the gun,
which they might have written in later on because they were shooting it guerrilla style or
edited it that way, right? Yeah. Because when they were acting in that scene, I remember. When that first gun went missing, it was innocuous for the entire family. It was not, it was like you must have misplaced it. And none of them acted guilty or nervous or whatever. So that's another problem that they, had, I think, is that some of the acting, maybe it's the actors, where on paper this stuff makes a lot of sense, but then if you don't have it acted right, you miss something in the delivery. I don't know.
There didn't seem like there was much acting going on with the daughters a lot of the time. I think it might have been a direction thing.
Well, they were just kind of being kids. Sort of. I mean, they didn't have much to do necessarily. They were just watching their phones, as you say, or watching TV. Or there wasn't an awful lot for them to do in terms of like showing their character development because they were just responding, to things all the time. So that's kind of understandable. I mean, they're kind of fair. I thought again just some of the chilling moments of them, the way they're placed when they went to the therapy session, and they're placed in the room,
or when she's arguing with the dad,
right,
at the dinner table. That was a good scene.
So again, there are lots of good pieces in here, and maybe just if you did some editing and cut down and stitch those together better. But I thought again, the acting when there was emotion and when there were these dramatic effects, it was really good. The interrogator guy was chilling. Like that scene was pretty frightening where he's confronting the mom and be like, oh, well, we all mothers and daughters have secrets. And then he reveals he knows these other secrets about the girl that she was trying to find again. That was really well done. Or just even, again, that it's just very stark, that scene of the girls as they're just sitting facing forward with the blindfolds on and they handed a piece of paper and whatnot. Again, just, I don't know. I think a bunch of different parts of this film were really well done. I think, some of the dramatic tensions as they bubble up and the families arguing, it's also well done. It's not, and again, it's just recalling those other films that we've seen that were very small, like damn it, I should look them up because I feel bad I'm not even saying his name. So what was, there were two films we saw.
Was it A Hero and a Separation?
A Hero and a Separation, right? And the Separation was fantastic, right? And it was also very, again, it didn't go where this one goes in the second half, but that sense of you're just following the family as they struggle and there's tension. But
Oscar Farhadi is the director.
Yeah. Anyway, his stuff was great. And it has that real life feeling where you're just also following these people and getting to know what it's like for these people to live in this environment, and just following them in their day to day. And so I think I still have echoes of those films when I watch this, thinking, oh boy, not necessarily in a happy way, because it's also in the context of all this riot and bloodshed. But it's still like, maybe I'm just having some afterglow of those films when I see this too, I don't know.
That works for me the opposite way, because I was also thinking about A Separation watching this, and I was just like, A Separation is like much tighter than this.
Oh, yes.
Like it's the same kind of slow family drama stuff, but it's gripping throughout. And in this movie, there were like periods where I'm just like, why am I watching them watch stuff?
Right.
Like, why is this so much of them just watching stuff? And it's not like a snippet of them watching it. It's long periods of time watching things that I can't see. I'm watching them watch something I can't see.
Right. That's fair.
Right?
It's so true. It's all blurred.
Yeah. Or their camera's facing away.
Right.
There's just, it's just a lot. It's a lot of that. And I'm just wondering why it's pausing my attention, right? Because I agree with you that scene where they're being interrogated was one of the better parts of the movie, even though I was confused at like what was even going on. Was just purely intimidation,
right?
stuff.
Well, and then they also just sort of move on from that. It's like then it's like almost like it didn't happen. Even like, hey, Dad, you just took us somewhere where they like blindfolded us and interrogated us. Can we debrief on this? No, they just sort of moved on.
And part of the movie, too, which is confusing, is like the mother knows the father has rage in him. These two girls are not that young. They're pretty old. And they're surprised when their father has the anger.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get how there's that disconnect where he's an angry person and the kids don't know, even though one of them is like an adult.
Right. And it was also surprising when the mom, during the interrogation, turns on the dad, because up to that point, it wasn't hinted at again that they're
so easily too. She just starts giving up information.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like, but then it goes, it feels like it's, so again, I really wanted to like this film more. And again, the topic and the history is amazing, but it feels like
Don't let us talk you out of liking it, John. It
No,
sounds like you did
let
like
us
it.
talk you out of it. No, it's okay.
No, but
It's okay.
if you want to sit and take it apart, it feels like it was, and maybe this happens.
I don't want to, but that's what this podcast is forcing
No, I
me
mean,
to
it
do.
was 3 hours long. It's hard
Right.
to say any fucking movie that's 3 hours long.
Maybe this is
should
more
be that
likely to
long.
happen
to be that long, yeah.
when
Come
you're
on.
dodging authorities or whatever and filming on the flight. But it feels like the film's cobbled together
True.
as opposed to thought of as a whole structure. It feels
And that's
like,
why I feel kind of bad criticizing it, right? Because it's because of the story behind it. But
right. But
Yeah,
same
but
time.
again, this is where
Right.
I always hear Ryan in my head. One thing is journalism, another thing is storytelling. This is journalism. That is not. It's just.
I know,
And it's
fair.
fine.
It's different.
I don't think anyone's saying it's bad, and that's what we're saying by not wanting to criticize it. We're not
No.
saying it was a bad
No.
piece to make. We're just saying that the storyline wasn't put together perfectly in a way that we're particularly fond of.
It doesn't feel like it was tightly
and that's
woven.
just how it goes.
Right. So that things were properly foreshadowed or hinted at. It feels like they were just sort of some right turns that almost maybe weren't even anticipated as the movie was being filmed earlier. So it sort of feels like the directions it went and where the characters went may not have been known. It feels like
and
that in
it
a
felt
sense,
more
but-
like, hey, we have these 10 things that we have down on a piece of paper that we find shocking and tough to bear, whether it's between the father and wife or the father and mother, or if it's between the daughters. So they have all those things lined up, and then they had trouble connecting the dots to get them to all work in sort of a linear way.
Sure.
And so that's how I sort of interpreted it. It was just, these are great premise, these are great premises and these are great scenes, but holistically together, they're not really a story as much as they are just sort of an insight into what's happening right now in their culture.
That's fair.
So not necessarily bad, but not necessarily a story either.
Right,
And
right.
so it's tough to sort of watch 3 hours of that. You give me an hour and a half, fuck man, I'll sit there and I'll watch that and I'll be fine. But 2 hours 45 minutes, you're grasping at some. It's a stretch
It's
for
pushing
me,
it, yeah.
and I'm probably more like most people than the two of you are with this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how
I'm
it
usually
is.
pretty tolerant of this stuff.
Right.
But I'm sick and I've am tired. I'm John now.
You're John.
I'm John now.
He's
so I'm
John.
all miserable.
Welcome to my world.
He's John.
The movie certainly didn't make me
we
happy.
could hang out,
again,
but we won't get along with each other. So.
we're making excuses why this movie isn't bad. It's not bad. It's just like what TC was saying, but also I think I appreciate how this movie brings the topic out, and I appreciate the effort. So it's like appreciating the movie in ways that I almost never get to, because I'm not appreciating, like you said, the story. It's like other things you're appreciating about it, which is, you can't really critique that because it's not what we're used to, sort of thing, but it's there, and I do appreciate it.
Right. And there's an honesty with the message and stuff like that. It feels like, again, as opposed to, say, Emilia Perez, where we, it didn't feel genuine and things like that. So again, there's a sense of earnestness and stuff that comes through this film too that makes it hit different, even when we can sit and criticize the structure or the way things were put together. Again, because it was really, to me, really affecting and scary in a different way, and not just because, again, it was long, but there were some of those quiet moments that were scary, that were really terrifying in the context of what that family is facing. And I thought that was really well done. Again, it was there in pieces, I think. It might have been really hard to take if it was there steadily for 2 hours and 35 minutes. Like what if they just let it be quiet and let everything fucking simmer the way that it looked like it could have just been simmering throughout the whole film.
Just like the stews that the mom made every once in a while. They just focus on her making some nice simmering stew.
That's right. There you go.
That's
a good-
they were eating
that's a
pretty
good-
well.
And they were. That's part
right.
of the point too, right? It's like all these
Yeah.
people are comfortable. They don't want things to change. It kind of makes sense. But again, it's hard to sympathize with them because they're fucking killing innocent people over here,
Yep.
If they made it something less bad than that, I think the movie would have worked a lot better for me. Because like even the kids, I was like, fuck this whole family, no matter what happens to any of these people, I don't give a shit. These people suck. These people are the problem. And they're focusing the story on that. And like, how am I supposed to like relate to this at all?
Yeah.
They got the tone right. At least in that regard, we're watching something that is giving us a window into what's happening, and they're doing it in a way that's at least tactful, albeit way too fucking long. It's just it's like the exact opposite of what Emilia Perez did last time.
Yeah.
And so
I like
at least
that perspective.
at least we have that part of it, and I got that much out of it, and I think that's what you're talking about with the appreciation part. And this is one for we'll give back a point to the Oscars for even putting this into the mix, because not a usual thing to be seeing a movie like this in a list of winner or nominees. Mm-hmm. So that was a long-winded way of saying it's a much different movie than Emilia Perez, but I think it was good to watch, even though it was that long, and that kind of brings together both of your points of like, this is something that's, it's hard to critique because you're critiquing a situation and not so much a movie.
And often too, what makes this one even more, it's just the immediacy of this one, because normally too, when we see a film like this, it's more further back in history. Like if you're going to comment on evil or families trying to exist within that evil, we got stacks of World War II Nazi films that can, really good ones too. But that it's just like, this is pretty immediate, about as immediate as you get as far as like being filmed while the events are going on. Making the movie like shortly after this stuff is happening is pretty amazing.
Being actively punished by the country that you live in, trying to release
for
the
doing
movie.
this kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
So in that regard, you got to cut them a little slack.
Yeah.
Tons of slack. Yeah, but that's weird because that's not a part of the movie. That's just like,
it's also not a part of how we watch movies usually.
Right. Great for everyone working on this movie, right? Like, 10 out of 10 effort on this movie.
Well, the bravery.
And bravery. Like, it's insane.
It's
like, people make fucking cushy movies in Hollywood all the time, and we're just like, yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it when Captain America punched that green guy in the face. That's pretty funny stuff.
That's cool.
Hey, did you know that actor got hurt on scene number 8?
Oh, he's brave.
Yeah, right. And everyone's like, who gives a shit, right? So,
This guy had to run for his life.
Right.
To make this movie. Like, that's awesome. That's, I don't know if awesome is the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's incredible. He had a lot to say, and he may not be gifted with the storytelling bug or have all the things he needed to make a movie need to have a story be as good as it is because of the
the situation didn't allow for it.
Right.
In a cabin by the lake where he could really get it all together.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that was like, hey guys, we just got access to this cabin at the lake. We should fucking use it.
Definitely what it was.
Right?
Watching that last part, I was like, they just found this abandoned thing and they ran around in it for 3 days. That's what this last scene is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Start thinking about it that way. I'm glad we watched it, I guess.
I am definitely glad we watched it.
I wouldn't watch it again. And I
Agreed
wouldn't
there as
tell
well.
anybody else to watch it because they're
Same.
going to be like, why did you tell me to watch a 3-hour movie? I'm glad I understand what's going on, but
I mean, it really just depends. Yeah, it depends. If they're interested in this stuff, then I think it's,
just kicks you out of your comfort zone in the smallest way possible, but still worth it for people who otherwise would not have like a window into any of this shit.
Yep.
Like that footage, none of that footage I had seen before.
No.
And it was there was one compilation part where I was like gasping.
Yeah.
Like there was the part where the truck turns around and runs the guy over. I was just like, oh my God,
shit. Right.
what the fuck?
Right. We're not even going to want to see anything from Palestine. Jesus.
I know, but it was, I mean, that stuff was so shocking too that I had a hard time even caring about the other stuff in the movie. Right. Like it was real. Like it is real. It's just, I don't know. It's tough to put real stuff in a movie because reality is like, it's way different.
It kind of like takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
It is, but I also, again, appreciate this sense that they're trying to, again, like we've seen with some of these really good films too, depicting Nazis and stuff, it's just trying to give you some insight there into what it's like. And how do these people how do some of these people allow some of these things and how do they react? It's just, I appreciate the concept greatly in terms of, I think it's hard to pull off. Like you said, it's a huge contrast, Denny, especially when you have, I mean, it's so immediate and it's all on the cell phones. It just feels it's so modern. Right, seeing all of this, and so it just has an immediacy to it, which is very, very intense.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you got? Anything else, Denny, for trivia? Do you have anything more?
Let's see. We talked about a lot of the stuff. It took him 28 days to escape Iran. So basically, he, like John said, had been in prison 3 times already, served 3 sentences for his movies specifically. So this guy is like kind of a famous guy going against the government. He got in trouble for speaking against the government in 2022 when the woman that was shown in this movie was killed during the protests, and he was outspoken about that. So then he was charged with something, and then in 2024, early May 2024, he was handed down after the government heard that he was participating in the Cannes Film Festival, and they wanted to kind of, I think it was part of the sentencing. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison, a lashing, or a flogging, rather, is what they call it, a fine, and then loss of all of his properties. So, like, taking all of his shit, which is how they do it in Iran, apparently.
Wow.
So he had reportedly a 2-hour window to decide whether or not he wanted to flee or if he wanted to stay and serve his sentences, or sentence various parts. So he decided he wasn't at home when this happened. He abandoned all of his shit. He left all of his shit at home. He let some of the people know for this movie because it was premiering at the Cannes Film Festival that month in May 2024. He got out of there. It took him 28 days to get out of there. He came out. There was like a news story a couple weeks later after he was sentenced. People were like, "Oh, he disappeared. No one knows where he is. He might be dead. Whatever." He popped up again saying, "I'm in some undisclosed European country. I'm safe. I left Iran." So people are like, "Okay, he's alive."
Shit.
And then he arrived at the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival on May 24th. So he was there with a lot of the cast and crew. The 2 people that played the parents couldn't make it out in time. He held pictures up of them on the red carpet. I couldn't really find any news about what's going on with them right now. But the Iranian government tried to force everybody to like not let this movie be released.
Wow.
They were like threatening everybody with the longer jail sentences and things like that. This movie was officially submitted by Germany. So this movie is like technically a German movie because every country gets one submission to the Academy Awards, and Germany used theirs for this movie because Germany is the country that he fled to, and they wanted to release this movie. So good on Germany for that one.
I was like, that's ironic.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it had like a 12 to 15 minute long standing ovation at the end. You know, longer than Amelia Perez.
Yeah, I was
Look
gonna
at
say,
that.
what was Amelia Perez's again?
It was
Because
9,
these people
I
clap
think.
for a long time, apparently.
Yeah. Everyone likes to stand up and clap at the end of a movie. It's a good way to stretch.
It is.
Flapping
that's
your
true.
arms,
Yeah.
standing up. It's good for you. And I mean, you gotta stand up and clap because like all the cast and crew were there. Like it would suck if you just got up and left.
Be great.
Be like, I didn't think the plot really held it together. You guys risked your lives and shit, but I don't know.
And that's part of the problem with this too. Is like we watch so many of these movies, we get spoiled. Like we criticize all these good movies. We only watch the good movies for the most part, right? And we criticize those ones. We're fucking idiots over here. Spoiled movie brats.
Yep.
And I think this movie in a theater, especially like with the cast and crew there, I would have been a lot more forgiving of it, I think. But just like sitting at my house, being sick and being like, I'm having a hard time concentrating, you guys. That was most of my experience.
That's mine too. Yeah.
Really having a hard time concentrating on this one. Yeah. So it's mostly probably just a me problem.
Yeah, me too.
It usually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got into it, John. I love it.
Yeah,
I like it
me
when like
too.
at least one of us does to prove that it's like it's not just like, you know, a movie problem. It's like a
I think I would
problem, sort of.
rather watch the documentary on this for.
Yeah, that's fair
Same.
too. I mean, yeah. I mean, but that's
And who knows? Maybe I will, and that'll be because of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly read up on it a lot more than the zero I had been reading up on it previously,
Right.
so that's a good thing.
Right.
It was nominated for the Palme d'Or, didn't win. Honora won that one, but it did win the Special Jury Prize, which is the I don't know what that one is. I think it's third place because there's like, isn't there like the Palme d'Or is number 1? There's like the Golden Strawberry or something stupid, and then there's the Special Jury, which is 3. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Right. And each one is named weirdly, so it's not like they can't just say first, second, third place.
I
Could
know.
you? Yeah, jerks.
It has to be all dramatic. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we spent the first 5 years of this podcast calling it the Cannes Film Festival.
That's.
I mean, it's got a lot of extra N's and it's got an additional E and S at the end. You know, it's too many letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Con.
So there's the Palme d'Or, which is the festival's highest honor.
All right, John, we're doing top
All right,
250.
John, top 250.
Top
Are we
250
doing
this
it? What do
movie?
you think? No.
I'd probably still say no.
I'm going to go no, but I'm also giving it the Special Jury Award.
Hey, well done,
I would do
Danny.
that,
Well
too.
done.
I think we all
This movie
agree on
deserves
that.
special recognition. If you risk your life making a movie, that shit
You
is
should
rare.
get recognized for
Yeah,
it. Right.
that shit is pretty incredible.
Right.
Next week, rides on you, John. Go to your local theaters and see if they're playing the movie I'm Here. They started playing I'm Here in theaters this month, I think last week. So maybe check your local indie theaters and see if they're playing it. See if we can watch it this week.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd like to see that one. Oh, I could see the monkey.
Oh, is that out this weekend?
Oh, maybe we do that instead.
Oh, the monkey.
If there's none of this other one,
Looks
then we're
pretty
going to do
good.
the monkey.
There's a baby carriage on fire and blood coming out of someone's eyeballs. It looks pretty good.
Here we go.
I'm still here. Oh, looks like maybe. Oh, no showings. Oh, I need to go
shit.
see it. Yeah, there's one at 3:00 this Friday, but I'm gonna be out of town, and then it's gone.
Okay, so the monkey?
The monkey. We're doing the monkey next week.
Shit.
Yeah,
That doesn't
the
sound
monkey.
good. We're going to take that
Osgood
one back.
Perkins.
We're doing the monkey.
It's the guy who directed Longlegs. He's doing a short story by Stephen King, and the trailer
boy.
looks good, and it's getting
boy.
mediocre reviews. Let's go fucking see
All
it.
right.
So we're gonna do the monkey or not. Go to the
That's
website.
right. That's
we do care.
right.
Please go to the website.
That's right, but go and click and listen.
Click it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you later, boys.
All right. See ya.